You don't have to be loud to be unforgettable. You don't need a stage or applause or 1,000 followers. What you need is presence. What you need is the ability to make people feel seen, heard, and important. The truth is, people won't remember what you said nearly as much as how you made them feel. Influence isn't about power, it's about connection. You want to be remembered, then master the art of making others feel valued. That's how you leave a mark. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind, and tell us, where are you watching from? People always ask me, Dale, how do you command a room without saying a word? And I smile because they're already thinking about this all wrong. They're focused on commanding when they should be focused on connecting. Let me tell you something that took me years to understand. Presence isn't about taking up space. It's about creating space. Space for others to feel valued. Space for authentic connection. Space for real human moments that echo long after you've left the room. You see, when I first started teaching public speaking in New York City, I thought presence was about perfect posture, a loud voice, and unwavering eye contact. I was wrong, dead wrong. And my students felt it. They felt the artificiality, the strain, the desperate attempt to be impressive. Everything changed when I learned this fundamental truth. People don't remember faces, they remember feelings. Think about it. Think about the last person who truly left an impression on you. Was it their perfectly pressed suit? Their flawless presentation? Their impressive credentials? No. It was how they made you feel. Here's what most people don't understand about presence. It's not something you put on like a coat. It's something you cultivate from within. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're there to give, not to get. To serve, not to show off. To connect, not to collect attention. Let me ask you this. When you walk into a room, what energy do you bring with you? Are you thinking about how you look, what you'll say, how you'll be perceived? Or are you thinking about the possibilities for connection, the opportunities to make someone else's day better, the chance to leave a positive mark on another human being? The most unforgettable people I've ever met had one thing in common. They weren't trying to be unforgettable. They were fully present, deeply genuine, and intensely interested in others. Their presence wasn't about power, it was about authenticity. I remember teaching a young executive named James. He came to my seminar convinced that presence meant dominance. He would stride into rooms with his chest puffed out, interrupt conversations to make his point, and constantly try to steer attentions. His way. Nobody liked him. Nobody remembered him, except as someone to avoid. Then one day, something clicked. He started practicing what I taught him about genuine presence. He began listening more than speaking. He stopped trying to prove his importance and started proving his interest in others. Within months, his entire professional life transformed. People sought him out. They remembered his name. They wanted to work with him. Not because he commanded attention, but because he gave attention. Start with your intention. Before you enter any room, any conversation, any interaction, set your intention to give, to listen, to understand, to add value. Watch what happens. When you shift from what can I get to what can I give, master the energy you bring into every room by mastering yourself first. Practice being fully present. Put away your phone. Drop your mental chatter. Look people in the eye, not to intimidate, but to connect. Smile with your eyes, not just your mouth. Let your body language say, I'm here, I'm listening, you matter. I've seen thousands of transformations in my seminars. The moment someone shifts from trying to impress to simply being present, everything changes. Their shoulders relax, their voice becomes more natural, their eyes soften. And suddenly, magically, people are drawn to them like moths to a flame. This isn't about techniques or tricks. It's about understanding a fundamental truth about human nature. We are drawn to authenticity. We remember those who make us feel seen, heard, and valued. You don't need to be the loudest or the most charismatic person in the room. You just need to be the most present. Think of presence as a gift you give to others. When you're truly present, you're saying, "This moment matters, you matter, this conversation matters." That's what people remember. That's what creates an impression that lasts. The power of presence isn't in what you project, it's in what you allow others to feel in your presence. It's in the space you create for genuine connection. It's in the attention you give, the interest you show, and the authenticity you bring to every interaction. Master this understanding of presence, and you'll never have to worry about being forgotten. Because when you make others feel valued through your presence, they don't just remember you, they carry a piece of you with them forever. Let me share a secret that's transformed more lives than any other principle I've ever taught. The deepest craving in human nature is the desire to feel important. Not just to be important, but to feel important. There's a crucial difference there that most people miss entirely. I learned this lesson early in my career, watching successful people interact with others. The truly memorable ones, the ones who left lasting impressions, weren't the ones showcasing their own importance. They were the ones who made others feel important, and they did it genuinely, consistently, without any hint of manipulation. Here's what most people don't understand. When you're trying to be impressive, you're actually creating distance. You're building walls instead of bridges. Think about it. How do you feel when someone's trying to impress you? There's always that slight disconnect, isn't there? That subtle feeling that this person wants something from you. Now, flip that around. Think about someone who made you feel truly important. Someone who listened to your ideas as if they were gold. Someone who remembered your dreams and asked about them months later. Someone who celebrated your small wins as if they were their own. That person is etched in your memory, aren't they? I remember working with a CEO of a major corporation who couldn't figure out why his employees never seemed engaged in company meetings. He was brilliant, charismatic, and always had impressive presentations. But something was missing. Want to know what it was? He never made his people feel important. We transformed his approach entirely. Instead of starting meetings with company updates, he began by highlighting individual contributions. He stopped talking about his vision and started asking about theirs. He learned to pause, to listen, to acknowledge. Within months, the entire company culture shifted. People weren't just engaged, they were invested. They felt important. But let me be crystal clear about something. This isn't about empty flattery. People can smell insincerity from a mile away. This is about genuine appreciation, about seeing the value in others and helping them see it too. Here's a practical exercise I give to all my students. For 1 week, make it your mission to make every person you interact with feel important. The barista who makes your coffee? Learn their name. Ask about their day. Really listen to the answer. The junior employee who rarely speaks in meetings? Ask for their opinion. Show them their voice matters. You see, making others feel important isn't just about words. It's about actions. It's about giving your full attention. It's about remembering details. It's about following up. It's about showing people that they matter not just when you need something from them, but all the time. I've seen this principle work magic in every possible setting. In businesses, where leaders who master this create unshakable loyalty. In families, where parents who practice this raise confident, secure children. In social circles, where people who understand this become the ones everyone wants to be around. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you made someone feel truly important? Not just acknowledged, not just validated, but genuinely important? Think about that person right now. What could you do today to reinforce their sense of importance? The beautiful thing about this principle is that it creates a virtuous cycle. When you make others feel important, they remember you. When they remember you, they want to connect with you more. When they connect with you more, you have more opportunities to make them feel important. It's an upward spiral of positive interaction. But here's the crucial part. You have to be genuine. You have to actually believe in the importance of others. You have to train yourself to look for the value in every person you meet, Because if you're just doing this as a technique, as a way to be remembered, it will backfire spectacularly. The real magic happens when you develop a genuine interest in the importance of others, when you truly understand that every person you meet has something valuable to offer. When you approach each interaction with the mindset of what's extraordinary about this person that they might not even see themselves, remember this: people may forget what you achieve, what you own, or what you say, but they never forget how you made them feel about themselves. Make others feel important, genuinely, consistently, thoughtfully, and you won't just be remembered. You'll become an unforgettable positive force in their lives. In all my years of teaching human relations, I've never found a sweeter sound to any person than their own name. It's not just a word, it's their identity, their sense of self, their personal brand in this vast world. And when you understand how to use someone's name with genuine warmth and respect, you hold a key to their memory. But let me tell you something crucial. It's not just about remembering names, it's about how you use them. I've seen people throw names around like business cards, and let me tell you, that's the fastest way to make yourself forgettable. Using someone's name must come from a place of sincere connection. Here's what most people don't understand about names: they're emotional anchors. When you hear your name spoken with warmth and respect, it triggers something deep in your brain. It says, I matter here, I'm seen, I'm recognized as an individual. I remember teaching a workshop where a participant, Sarah, complained that she could never remember names. Dale, she said, I meet someone, and their name just vanishes from my mind seconds later. I asked her a simple question. When you meet someone new, are you thinking about remembering their name, or are you thinking about what you're going to say next? The truth hit her like a thunderbolt. She had been so focused on managing her own presence that she wasn't truly present for others. We worked on a simple technique. When meeting someone new, repeat their name immediately in a natural way. John, it's wonderful to meet you. Then use it again when asking a question. So, John, what brings you here today? But here's the crucial part. You must attach meaning to the name. When I meet someone named Michael, I might think of my Uncle Michael who loved gardening. Then I might ask this new Michael about his hobbies. Creating a genuine connection. The name becomes more than a label. It becomes a bridge to understanding. Let me ask you this. How do you feel when someone remembers your name from a brief meeting weeks ago? It makes you feel significant, doesn't it? That's the power you hold when you master the art of using names with sincerity. I worked with a business leader who transformed his entire company culture by implementing what we call the Name Connection Initiative. Every leader was required to learn and use the names of not just their direct reports, but of everyone they interacted with regularly. The impact was astronomical. Employee engagement soared. Why? Because people felt seen, recognized, important. But remember, and this is crucial, using names must never become mechanical. I've seen people use techniques like repeating a name 3 times in conversation, and it comes across as artificial. Instead, use names naturally, warmly at moments when you're expressing genuine interest or appreciation. Here's a powerful practice I recommend. At the end of each day, write down the names of people you met, not just their names, but one unique. Think about each person. This isn't about memorization, it's about connection. When you meet them again, you're not just remembering a name, you're remembering a person. The impact of hearing one's name spoken with warmth is universal. I've tested this principle across cultures, across generations, across professional levels. Whether you're speaking to a CEO or a custodian, their name, used with genuine respect, creates an immediate connection. Think about the last time someone mangled your name or clearly forgot it moments after you introduced yourself. That slight sting you felt? That's what we want to avoid causing in others. Take the time to get names right. Ask for pronunciation if you're unsure. Show people that their name, their identity, matters to you. And here's something fascinating I've observed. People who master the art of using names tend to be more successful in all areas of life. Why? Because they're demonstrating one of the most fundamental human skills, the ability to make others feel valued and remembered. Remember this, every time you use someone's name with warmth and sincerity, you're not just communicating, you're creating a moment of recognition. You're saying, in this moment, you're not just another face in the crowd, you're you, and that matters to me. Master this art, and watch how it transforms your interactions. Watch how people lean in when you speak, how they remember you, how they seek you out in crowded rooms. Not because you're the loudest or the most impressive, but because you made them feel valued through the simple, powerful act of speaking their name with care. Surface-level conversation is the death of meaningful connection. I learned this lesson the hard way, watching countless, potentially powerful relationships wither on the vine of shallow small talk. But here's what changed everything for me: understanding that the right question, asked at the right time with genuine curiosity, can open doors to connections that last a lifetime. Here's what most people don't understand about asking questions. It's not about gathering information. It's about opening windows into the human soul. When you ask surface questions, you get surface answers. But when you learn to ask questions that go deeper, you create space for real human connection. I remember working with a young salesman who couldn't figure out why his clients never seemed to trust him. His questions were textbook perfect. What's your budget? What's your timeline? What are your requirements? But they were all transaction-focused. They were questions that treated people like walking wallets rather than human beings with dreams, fears, and aspirations. We transformed his approach entirely. Instead of asking, "What's your budget?" he learned to ask, "What's the vision you're trying to bring to life here?" Instead of, "What's your timeline?" he began asking, "What would success look like for you in this project?" The results were remarkable. His sales didn't just increase, they skyrocketed. Why? Because he stopped selling products and started understanding people. Let me share with you the 3 levels of questions I teach in my seminars. Level 1, surface questions. How are you? What do you do? Where are you from? These questions are like shallow pools. They might get your feet wet, but you can't swim in them. Level 2, bridge questions. These questions take common topics and add depth. Instead of, "What do you do?" try, "What made you choose your field of work?" Instead of, "Where are you from?" ask, "What's your favorite memory from growing up there?" These questions begin to build real connection. Level 3, depth questions. These are the questions that make people stop, think, and share from their hearts. What's the best advice you've ever received? What challenge in your life has taught you the most? What dream haven't you pursued yet, and what's holding you back? But here's the crucial part, and pay close attention to this. You must ask these questions with genuine curiosity. People can sense when you're asking questions by rote, when you're just waiting for your turn to speak. Real curiosity is like a lighthouse beam. It illuminates whatever it touches and guides the way to deeper waters. I worked with a CEO who prided himself on being a great communicator. But when I observed his team meetings, I noticed something telling. He asked questions like a prosecutor, not like a curious learner. His questions were designed to prove points, not understand perspectives. We worked on transforming his questions from, "Don't you think we should?" to, "What are your thoughts on?" The change in team engagement was immediate and profound. Let me ask you this. When was the last time someone asked you a question that made you really think? A question that made you feel truly seen and understood? Those are the questions that create lasting impressions. Here's a powerful exercise I give to all my students. For 1 week, ban yourself from asking any question that could be answered in 1 word. Instead of, "Did you have a good weekend?" ask, "What was the most interesting part of your weekend?" Instead of, "Do you like your job?" ask, "What aspects of your work light you up the most?" Watch what happens when you start asking these deeper questions. People don't just answer, They open up, they share stories, they reveal dreams, they trust you with their truth. And in that sharing, in that vulnerability, real connection is born. But remember this, and it's absolutely crucial. You must be prepared to listen to the answers. Deep questions require deep listening. If someone shares something meaningful and you're checking your phone, you've just destroyed the very connection you were trying to build. I've seen relationships transformed through the power of deep questions. I've watched strangers become friends, colleagues become confidants, and casual contacts become lifelong connections. All because someone had the courage and curiosity to ask questions that mattered. The beauty of mastering this skill is that it becomes natural over time. You develop an instinct for the right question at the right moment. You learn to read the subtle cues that tell you when to go deeper and when to pull back. You become known as someone who doesn't just make conversation, you create connection. Remember this, people will forget most of what you tell them, but they'll never forget how deeply you sought to understand them. When you ask questions that go beyond the surface, you're not just gathering information, you're showing people that their thoughts, their feelings, their experiences matter. And that's something they'll remember forever. There's a profound difference between hearing and listening. Most people hear, their ears function perfectly well, but true listening, that's a rare art, and it's one of the most powerful skills you can develop if you want to be truly unforgettable. Here's what most people don't understand about listening. It's not a passive act. It's not about being quiet while waiting for your turn to speak. True listening is an active, engaged process that requires your full presence, your complete attention, and your sincere desire to understand. I remember working with a brilliant attorney who couldn't figure out why his clients kept switching to other lawyers despite his exceptional track record. When I observed him in client meetings, the problem became immediately clear. He listened, like a computer, processing only the facts he needed to win the case. He missed the emotions, the unspoken fears, the subtle nuances that his clients were trying to communicate. We worked together to transform his approach. Instead of just noting facts, he learned to listen for feeling. Instead of interrupting, with solutions, he learned to pause and reflect. Instead of thinking about his next question, he learned to be fully present with the current answer. Within months, his client retention skyrocketed. Why? Because people felt truly heard, perhaps, for the first time in their lives. Let me share with you the 3 levels of listening I teach in my seminars. Level 1, surface listening. This is where most people operate, hearing words but missing meaning, nodding along while thinking about lunch. It's polite, but it's not powerful. Level 2, focused listening. This is when you're actually processing what's being said following the thread of conversation and responding thoughtfully. It's good, but it's not great. Level 3, profound listening. This is where magic happens. You're not just hearing words or following logic. You're tuning into emotion, catching subtle shifts in tone, noticing what's not being said. You're listening with your ears, your eyes, and your heart. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people fail. Profound listening requires you to temporarily suspend your own thoughts, judgments, and solutions. It requires you to be genuinely curious about what the other person is experiencing. I worked with a manager who thought he was a great listener because he could repeat everything his team members said. But when we dug deeper, we discovered he was just collecting data, not creating connection. We worked on what I call empathetic listening, listening not just for information, but for understanding. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt truly, deeply listened to, not just heard, but understood? Remember how that felt? That's the gift you can give to others when you master this skill. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. For one conversation, commit to not planning your response while the other person is speaking. Just listen. Notice how much more you hear when you're not mentally preparing your next statement. Watch what happens when you become a profound listener. People don't just share information with you. They share their dreams, their fears, their hopes. They trust you with their truth because they know you'll hold it with care. I've seen this principle transform marriages, heal workplace conflicts, and build unshakable business relationships. Why? Because deep listening communicates something profound. You matter. Your thoughts matter. Your feelings matter. Your experience matters. But remember this, and it's absolutely essential. Listening at this level requires practice. It's like developing a muscle. Start with short conversations. Notice when your mind wanders and gently bring it back. Pay attention to nonverbal cues. Listen for the emotion behind the words. The impact of being truly listened to is so rare and so powerful that people never forget it. In a world where everyone is talking, where social media is a constant shout, into the void, deep listening becomes a superpower. I've watched rooms full of people transform when someone starts truly listening. Tensions dissolve, connections form, understanding blooms, all because one person had the wisdom and patience to listen deeply. The beautiful thing about mastering this skill is that it changes not just how others see you, but how you see the world. You begin to hear the stories behind the statements, the dreams behind the complaints, the potential behind the problems. Remember this: in a world full of noise, deep listening is a rare and precious gift. When you truly listen to someone, you're not just hearing their words. You're honoring their experience, validating their worth, and creating a moment of genuine human connection. Master this skill, and you won't just be remembered, you'll be sought out, trusted, and valued as someone who truly understands the art of human connection. If you want people to remember you forever, master this one skill: empathy. Not sympathy, not pity, not mere understanding, but true empathy. The ability to step into another person's world and see life through their eyes. This is the master key that unlocks every door in human relations. Here's what most people don't understand about empathy. It's not about being nice. It's not about agreeing with everyone. It's about having the courage and wisdom to truly understand another person's perspective, even when, especially when, it differs from your own. I remember working with a factory supervisor who couldn't figure out why his team's morale was so low. His numbers were good, his processes were efficient. But something was missing. When I observed him at work, I noticed he treated every problem like a mechanical issue to be fixed. When a worker came to him worried about meeting quotas, he responded with statistics and standards. We worked together to develop his empathy. Instead of immediately jumping to solutions, he learned to ask, "How is this affecting you?" Instead of dismissing concerns with policy quotes, he learned to say, "Help me understand what you're experiencing." The transformation was remarkable. Within months, his team's productivity increased, not because he changed any procedures, but because he changed how he connected with his people. Let me share with you the 3 dimensions of empathy I teach in my seminars. First, there's cognitive empathy, understanding how someone thinks. Second, there's emotional empathy, feeling what someone feels. And third, there's compassionate empathy, being moved to help or support. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people get it wrong. Empathy isn't about losing yourself in someone else's experience. It's about maintaining a bridge between their world and yours. It's about understanding deeply while still maintaining your own perspective. I worked with a negotiator who prided herself on being tough and uncompromising. "Dale," she told me, "if I start feeling what they're feeling, I'll lose my edge." But when we explored true empathy, she discovered something powerful. Understanding others' positions deeply made her negotiations more successful, not less. She wasn't compromising, she was connecting. Let me ask you this: when was the last time someone truly understood what you were going through? Not just nodded along, not just offered advice, but really got it. That feeling of being understood is what you can offer others when you master empathy. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. Before every significant conversation, take a moment to ask yourself, what might this person be experiencing right now? What pressures, what hopes, what fears might be influencing their perspective? This simple practice can transform any interaction. Watch what happens when you lead with empathy. People don't just open up to you, they trust you with their truth. They share their real concerns, their authentic hopes, their genuine fears. And in that sharing, real connection is born. I've seen hardened business relationships transform through the power of empathy. I remember working with two business partners on the verge of splitting up. Each was convinced the other was being unreasonable. We spent time developing their empathy for each other's position. As they began to understand the pressures and fears driving each other's decisions, the tension dissolved. They didn't just save their partnership, they strengthened it. But remember this, and it's absolutely vital, empathy must be genuine. People can sense fake understanding a mile away. If you're just going through the motions, if you're just using empathy as a technique, it will backfire spectacularly. The impact of true empathy is so profound that it changes not just how others see you, but how you see the world. You begin to understand that everyone you meet is fighting battles you know nothing about. You start to see that behind every complaint is an unmet need. Behind every argument is a fear. Behind every resistance is a reason. I've watched rooms full of conflict transform when someone demonstrates true empathy. I've seen decades-old family feuds heal when one person has the courage to truly understand another's perspective. I've witnessed hostile negotiations turn collaborative when empathy enters the equation. The beautiful thing about mastering empathy is that it becomes a natural part of who you are. You develop what I call an empathy reflex, the automatic ability to consider and understand others' perspectives. This doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Remember this. In a world that's increasingly divided, empathy is the bridge that connects us. When you truly understand someone, when you can see the world through their eyes, feel what they're feeling, appreciate their challenges, and celebrate their triumphs, you become unforgettable to them, not because you agreed with everything they said, but because you took the time to truly understand their experience. Master this skill, and you won't just be remembered, you'll be treasured as someone who had the wisdom and courage to truly understand others. In a world of quick judgments and hasty conclusions, true empathy is the rarest and most valuable of human gifts. Anyone can remember big moments, but it's the person who remembers the small details, the dreams whispered in passing conversation, the challenges mentioned months ago, the small victories celebrated in quiet moments, who becomes truly unforgettable. Here's what most people don't understand about remembering details. It's not about having a photographic memory. It's about showing others that their lives matter enough to be remembered. Every detail you remember is a brick in the foundation of lasting connection. I remember working with a sales executive who couldn't understand why his client relationships never deepened beyond the transactional. His numbers were good, but something was missing. When I observed his client meetings, I noticed he treated each interaction like a fresh start, never referring back to previous conversations, never following up on personal details shared in passing. We transformed his approach entirely. He began keeping detailed notes after every meeting, not just about business matters, but about personal details shared. When a client mentioned their daughter's college graduation coming up, he marked the date. When someone talked about a challenging project, he followed up weeks later to ask how it went. His business didn't just grow, it transformed. Let me share with you the 3 levels of detail remembering I teach in my seminars. Level 1, basic facts. Names, titles, roles, the fundamental information most people manage to retain. Level 2, contextual details. Previous conversations, shared experiences, mutual connections. Level 3, personal insights, dreams, fears, challenges, aspirations, the deeper details that make people feel truly seen. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people fail. Remembering details isn't about showing off your memory. It's about showing others that their lives, their stories, their experiences matter to you. It's about creating continuity in relationships. I worked with a manager who thought remembering details meant reciting facts like a computer. But when we dug deeper, we discovered that true detail remembering is about making connections. It's about remembering that Sarah's son plays baseball and asking about his game. It's about recalling John's project challenges and checking in on his progress. Let me ask you this. When was the last time someone remembered something about you that you'd mentioned in passing? Remember how that felt? That's the gift you can give to others when you master this skill. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. After every significant conversation, take 5 minutes to write down 3 details, one professional, one personal, and one about their future plans or aspirations. Review these notes before your next interaction. Watch how this simple practice transforms your relationships. The impact of remembering details goes far beyond mere impression making. When you remember someone's challenges and ask about them weeks later, you're not just showing off your memory, you're showing that you care. When you recall someone's dreams and encourage their progress, you become part of their support system. I have seen countless relationships transform through the power of remembered details. I remember working with 2 business partners who were struggling to connect. One partner began intentionally remembering and following up on personal details. The other shared. Within months, their entire dynamic shifted. Why? Because remembering details showed that he valued their relationship beyond just business. But remember this, and it's absolutely essential, detail remembering must be authentic. Don't just collect information to prove you were paying attention. Remember details because you genuinely care about the person sharing them. The beautiful thing about mastering this skill is that it becomes natural over time. You develop what I call a relationship memory, the ability to naturally retain and connect details that matter to others. This isn't about memorization, it's about genuine interest in people's lives. I've watched entire organizational cultures transform when leaders master this skill. When a CEO remembers not just names but personal details about employees at all levels, it creates a ripple effect of caring and connection throughout the company. Think about the last time you shared something personal with someone. Maybe it was a dream you're working toward or a challenge you're facing. Now imagine if that person asked about it weeks or months later. Wouldn't that make them stand out in your memory? Remember this. In a world where people feel increasingly unseen and unheard, remembering details about others is a powerful way to show that they matter. When you remember not just the big moments, but the small details, the hopes, the fears, the dreams, the challenges, you become more than just a contact in someone's network. You become a meaningful part of their story. Master this skill, and you won't just be remembered, you'll be valued as someone who truly cares enough to remember what matters to others. In a world of increasing disconnection, being someone who remembers the details is a gift that keeps on giving. In all my years of teaching human relations, I've discovered that emotional generosity is the currency of unforgettable connections. It's not about money or material gifts. It's about giving freely of your warmth, your appreciation, your encouragement, and your joy. Here's what most people don't understand about emotional generosity. It's not about grand gestures or elaborate praise. It's about consistent, authentic expressions of warmth and appreciation. It's about creating an atmosphere where others feel enriched by your presence. I remember working with a brilliant executive who couldn't understand why his team never seemed to go above and beyond. His results were excellent, his strategy was sound, but something was missing. When I observed him, I noticed he was emotionally frugal, sparing with his smiles, stingy with his praise, conservative with his encouragement. We transformed his approach completely. He learned to smile more freely, to express appreciation more readily, to celebrate small victories with genuine enthusiasm. The change in his team was remarkable. Productivity didn't just increase, it soared. Why? Because people will move mountains for someone who makes them feel valued and appreciated. Let me share with you the 3 dimensions of emotional generosity I teach in my seminars. First, there's expressive generosity, sharing your smile, your enthusiasm, your positive energy freely. Second, there's appreciative generosity, actively looking for and acknowledging the good in others. Third, there's supportive generosity, being there for others in both their triumphs and their challenges. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people get it wrong. Emotional generosity must come from a place of authenticity. You can't fake warmth. You can't manufacture genuine appreciation. You have to cultivate it from within. I worked with a sales manager who thought emotional generosity meant saying, "Great job," to everything her team did. But that's not generosity. That's inflation. We worked on developing what I call specific appreciation, the ability to notice and acknowledge particular efforts, qualities, and achievements. Let me ask you this. When was the last time someone's emotional generosity touched your heart? Maybe it was a genuine smile when you were having a rough day, or a word of encouragement when you needed it most. That's the power you hold when you master this skill. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. For 1 week, double your emotional generosity. Double your smiles, double your thank yous, double your expressions of appreciation. But, and this is crucial, make each one genuine and specific. Don't just say, "Good work." Say, "I noticed how carefully you handled that challenging client situation." Watch what happens when you become emotionally generous. People don't just work harder, they bloom. They don't just perform better, they transform. Why? Because emotional generosity creates an environment where people feel safe to be their best selves. I've seen entire organizational cultures transform through the power of emotional generosity. I remember working with a company where criticism was the norm and praise was rare. We started with one department teaching them the principles of emotional generosity. Within months, the change was so dramatic that other departments were asking what their secret was. But remember this, and it's absolutely vital, emotional generosity isn't about being soft or lowering standards. In fact, when you're emotionally generous, you can actually hold people to higher standards because they know you believe in them and support their success. The impact of emotional generosity extends far beyond the workplace. I've watched families heal, friendships deepen, and communities strengthen, all because someone had the wisdom to be generous with their emotional resources. Think about the people in your life who are emotionally generous, the ones who smile easily, praise sincerely, celebrate your successes genuinely, and support you through challenges. They're unforgettable, aren't they? That's not an accident. That's the power of emotional generosity. The beautiful thing about mastering this skill is that it creates a virtuous cycle. When you're emotionally generous with others, they tend to be emotionally generous in return. The more you give, the more you receive. The more you appreciate, the more you find to appreciate. I've seen this principle work magic in every possible setting. In businesses, where emotionally generous leaders create enthusiastic, loyal teams. In families, where emotional generosity creates strong, secure bonds. In friendships, where emotional generosity creates lasting, meaningful connections. Remember this, in a world that often feels cold and transactional, emotional generosity is like a warm fire on a cold night. When you freely share your warmth, your appreciation, your encouragement, and your joy, you don't just make others feel good, you become a source of light in their lives. Master the skill, and you won't just be remembered. You'll be treasured as someone who made others feel valued, appreciated, and capable of greatness. In a world that often feels emotionally impoverished, being emotionally generous is one of U.S. the most powerful ways to leave a lasting, positive impact on others' lives. Facts inform, but stories transform. In all my years of teaching human relations, I've never found a more powerful tool for becoming unforgettable than the ability to tell stories that stick, stories that resonate in the heart long after the words have faded. Here's what most people don't understand about storytelling. It's not about entertainment. It's about connection. It's about sharing experiences in a way that bridges the gap between minds and touches the soul. When you master the art of storytelling, you master the art of being memorable. I remember working with a talented executive who couldn't understand why his presentations never seemed to move people to action. His data was impeccable, his logic was sound, but his message wasn't sticking. When I observed him, I noticed he was all facts and figures, no humanity, no emotion, no story. We transformed his approach entirely. Instead of starting with statistics about market share, he learned to begin with stories about real customers whose lives were changed by their product. Instead of focusing on quarterly projections, he shared stories about his team's journey to innovation. The impact was immediate and profound. Let me share with you the 3 elements of unforgettable stories I teach in my seminars. First, there's emotional truth, the genuine human feeling at the heart of your story. Second, there's vivid detail, the specific moments that make your story come alive. Third, there's universal meaning, the larger truth that makes your story relevant to others. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people fail. Storytelling isn't about perfect construction or dramatic flair. It's about authenticity and connection. The most powerful stories are often the simplest ones, told with genuine feeling and clear purpose. I worked with a sales representative who thought storytelling meant creating elaborate tales to impress clients. But that's not what makes stories stick. We worked on helping her share authentic experiences, real moments of challenge, discovery, and triumph. Her sales didn't just improve, they transformed. Let me ask you this. What's the most memorable story someone has ever shared with you? Think about it. What made it stick? Was it the fancy language, the complex plot, or was it the genuine human truth at its core? Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. Identify your 3 core stories. One about a challenge you overcame, one about a lesson you learned, and one about a moment that changed your perspective. Practice telling these stories with different emphasis for different situations. Watch how they create connections in various contexts. The impact of a well-told story goes far beyond the moment of telling. I've seen whole organizations rally around a shared story of purpose. I've watched teams unite through stories of collective challenge and triumph. I've witnessed relationships transform through the vulnerable sharing of personal stories. But remember this, and it's absolutely essential. Your stories must be true and relevant. Don't tell stories just to tell stories. Tell them because they illuminate something important, because they help others understand, because they create meaningful connection. The beautiful thing about mastering storytelling is that it transforms not just how you communicate, but how you see the world. You begin to recognize the stories in everyday moments. You start to understand that every challenge, every triumph, every mistake has the potential to become a story that helps others. I've watched rooms full of skeptics become believers through the power of story. I remember working with a technical team that resisted soft communication skills, but when their leader shared a story about a failure that led to their greatest innovation, suddenly storytelling wasn't soft anymore. It was strategic. Think about the last time you tried to convince someone of something important. Did you lead with facts and figures? How did that work? Now imagine leading with a story that illustrates your point through real human experience. Feel the difference? The power of story lies in its ability to bypass resistance and speak directly to the heart. When you tell a story well, you're not just conveying information, you're creating an experience. You're not just making a point, you're making a connection. Remember this: In a world drowning in data, stories are life rafts of meaning. When you tell stories that stick, stories that are authentic, relevant, and resonant, you don't just communicate ideas. You create lasting impressions that continue to influence long after the conversation ends. Master this skill, and you won't just be remembered, you'll be sought out as someone who can make sense of experience, who can illuminate truth through story, who can create connection through shared understanding. In a world of increasing complexity, the ability to tell stories that stick is more valuable than ever. Of all the principles I've taught over the years, this one might be the most powerful. Be genuinely interested in other people. Not pretend interested, not surface interested, but deeply, genuinely, authentically interested. Because here's the truth. You can't fake fascination. People know. They always know. Here's what most people don't understand about being interested in others. It's not a technique to be mastered. It's a mindset to be developed. It's not about asking the right questions or remembering the right details, though those things matter. It's about cultivating genuine curiosity about the human beings around you. I remember working with a networking expert who couldn't understand why his vast collection of contacts never turned into meaningful connections. He knew all the techniques, the right questions to ask, the right moments to follow up, the right ways to stay in touch. But something was missing. When I observed him in action, I saw the problem immediately. He was performing interest, not feeling it. We transformed his approach entirely. Instead of thinking about what he could get from each interaction, he learned to approach each person with genuine curiosity. What made them tick? What excited them? What challenges were they facing? The change was remarkable. His network didn't just grow, it deepened. Let me share with you the 3 levels of interest I teach in my seminars. First, there's surface interest, the basic courtesy of paying attention. Second, there's active interest, the engagement that comes from asking thoughtful questions and following up. Third, there's genuine fascination, the deep interest that comes from seeing each person as a unique universe of experiences, insights, and potential. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people get it wrong. Genuine interest can't be faked. You have to actually care. You have to be genuinely curious about other people's lives, their challenges, their triumphs, their perspectives. I worked with a sales manager who thought being interested meant memorizing facts about his clients' hobbies. But that's not interest. That's research. We worked on developing what I call authentic curiosity, the genuine desire to understand not just what people do, but who they are and why they do it. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt someone was truly, deeply interested in you? Not just being polite, not just making conversation, but genuinely fascinated by your thoughts, your experiences, your perspective? Remember how that felt. That's the gift you can give to others. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. For 1 week, approach every conversation with the mindset that the person you're talking to has something fascinating to teach you. Because here's the truth, they do. Every single person you meet knows something you don't, has experienced something you haven't, sees the world in a way you don't. Watch what happens when you become genuinely interested in others. They don't just open up, they bloom. They don't just share, they reveal. They don't just talk, they trust. Why? Because genuine interest is one of the rarest gifts we can give. Another human being. I've seen entire relationships transform through the power of genuine interest. I remember working with 2 business partners who had become nothing more than polite strangers. When one partner began showing genuine interest in the other's vision, not just the business plan, but the deeper why behind it, their entire dynamic shifted. But remember this, and it's absolutely vital, being interested isn't about being agreeable. You can be fascinated by someone whose views differ completely from your own. In fact, that's when genuine interest becomes most powerful, when it bridges divides and creates understanding across differences. The impact of genuine interest extends far beyond professional success. I've watched families heal when parents learn to be truly interested in their children's worlds. I've seen marriages transform when partners rediscovered genuine curiosity about each other. I've witnessed communities unite when people began showing real interest in understanding different perspectives. Think about the most interesting person you know. I'll bet they're also the most interested person you know. That's not a coincidence. When you're genuinely interested in others, you become more interesting yourself. You become a collector of human stories, a keeper of human truths, a connector of human hearts. The beautiful thing about mastering this skill is that it makes life richer. When you're genuinely interested in others, every conversation becomes an opportunity for discovery. Every interaction holds the potential for insight. Every relationship becomes a chance to grow. Remember this: in a world where everyone is trying to be interesting, be interested. In a world where everyone is trying to be noticed, be the one who notices. When you show genuine interest in others, when you approach each person with authentic curiosity and real fascination, you don't just become memorable, you become meaningful. Master this skill, and you won't just be remembered. You'll be sought out as someone who makes others feel truly seen, truly heard, truly understood. In a world of superficial connections, genuine interest is the key that unlocks the door to lasting, meaningful relationships. There's a profound truth about human nature that I've observed over decades of teaching. People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. That's why creating positive associations is one of the most powerful ways to become truly unforgettable. Here's what most people don't understand about positive association. It's not about being constantly cheerful or avoiding all negative topics. It's about consistently creating experiences that leave others feeling better about themselves and their possibilities after interacting with you. I remember working with a highly qualified consultant who couldn't understand why clients weren't referring him to others. His work was excellent, his insights were valuable, but something was missing. When I observed his client interactions, I saw the problem. Every meeting left people feeling somewhat diminished, somewhat anxious, somewhat less confident than before. We transformed his approach entirely. Instead of just pointing out problems, he learned to illuminate possibilities. Instead of just highlighting gaps, he began emphasizing potential. The change in his practice was remarkable. His client list didn't just grow, it exploded. Why? Because people began associating him with possibility and progress, not problems and pressure. Let me share with you the 3 levels of positive association I teach in my seminars. First, there's behavioral association, the consistent way you treat others. Second, there's emotional association, the feelings you consistently generate in others. Third, there's transformational association, the way people consistently feel about themselves in your presence. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people get it wrong. Creating positive associations isn't about being artificially positive. It's about genuinely bringing out the best in situations and in people. It's about being the person who helps others see their own potential. I worked with a manager who thought creating positive associations meant never delivering difficult feedback. But that's not it at all. We worked on what I call constructive positivity, the ability to address challenges while maintaining a focus on growth and possibility. Let me ask you this: who in your life do you associate with feeling better about yourself? Think about that person. What do they do? How do they make you feel? That's the kind of impact you can have when you master this principle. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. For 1 week, consciously focus on leaving every interaction on an up note, not with false cheerfulness, but with genuine encouragement, appreciation, or positive possibility. Watch how this small shift changes your relationships. The impact of positive association extends far beyond the moment. When people associate you with feeling good about themselves and their possibilities, they naturally seek you out. They want to work with you, spend time with you, bring you into their projects and their lives. I've seen entire careers transform through the power of positive association. I remember working with a sales professional who was technically proficient but struggling to build lasting client relationships. When she learned to create positive associations to make every interaction to leave clients feeling more confident and capable, her business didn't just improve, it transformed. But remember this, and it's absolutely essential, creating positive associations must be authentic. People can sense when you're genuinely invested in their success and when you're just trying to make them like you. The difference is crucial. Think about the last time you left a conversation feeling energized, optimistic, and capable. What did that person do to create that feeling? How can you recreate that impact for others? The beautiful thing about mastering this skill is that it creates a virtuous cycle. When you consistently create positive associations, people are naturally drawn to you. When people are drawn to you, you have more opportunities to create positive impact. When you create more positive impact, your influence grows exponentially. I've watched entire organizations transform when leaders master this principle. When people begin associating their workplace with growth, appreciation, and possibility rather than stress, criticism, and limitation, everything changes. Productivity rises, innovation flourishes, loyalty deepens. Remember this, in a world full of critics and cynics, be the person who helps others see their potential. When you consistently create positive associations, when you become someone who reliably leaves others feeling better about themselves and their possibilities, you become more than memorable. You become invaluable. Master this skill, and you won't just be remembered, you'll be sought after as someone who makes others feel more capable, more confident, more optimistic about their possibilities. In a world that often leaves people feeling diminished, the ability to consistently create positive associations is a superpower that sets you apart and makes you truly unforgettable. Anyone can be charming when things are going well, but it's how you handle conflict that truly sets you apart in people's memories. The ability to navigate disagreement with grace isn't just a skill, it's an art that can make you truly unforgettable. Here's what most people don't understand about handling conflict. It's not about avoiding disagreement or always keeping the peace. It's about managing tension in a way that strengthens relationships rather than damages them. It's about turning potential breaking points into breakthrough moments. I remember working with a corporate leader who prided himself on being brutally honest during conflicts. His team respected his directness, but feared his reactions. When I observed him handling disagreements, I saw why. He treated every conflict like a battle to be won rather than a problem to be solved. We transformed his approach entirely. Instead of meeting resistance with force, he learned to meet it with curiosity. Instead of trying to prove others wrong, he began trying to understand why they might be right. The change in his leadership was remarkable. His team didn't just stop fearing conflict, they began seeing it as an opportunity for growth. Let me share with you the 3 levels of graceful conflict handling I teach in my seminars. First, there's emotional management, keeping your own reactions in check. Second, there's perspective taking, truly understanding the other person's position. Third, there's solution seeking, finding ways to move forward that address everyone's core needs. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people fail. Handling conflict with grace isn't about being soft or giving in. It's about being strong enough to seek understanding before seeking victory. It's about having the wisdom to know that how you handle disagreement often matters more than the disagreement itself. I worked with a sales manager who thought handling conflict meant always finding a compromise. But that's not grace. That's avoidance. We worked on developing what I call constructive engagement, the ability to address conflicts directly, while maintaining respect and seeking mutual benefit. Let me ask you this. Who do you remember most positively from past conflicts in your life? Is it the person who fought hardest against you, or is it the person who showed understanding even while disagreeing with you. That's the power of handling conflict with grace. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. For 1 week, treat every disagreement as an opportunity to demonstrate grace. Instead of reacting, pause. Instead of defending, listen. Instead of attacking, seek to understand. Watch how this approach transforms your conflicts and your relationships. The impact of graceful conflict handling extends far beyond the immediate situation. When you handle disagreement with grace, you don't just resolve conflicts, you build trust. You don't just solve problems, you strengthen relationships. You don't just avoid enemies, you create allies. I've seen entire organizations transform through the power of graceful conflict handling. I remember working with 2 departments that had been at odds for years. When their leaders learned to approach conflicts with grace rather than grievance, the entire dynamic shifted. Productivity soared, innovation flourished. Why? Because people stopped fearing conflict and started seeing it as a path to better solutions. But remember this, and it's absolutely vital. Grace in conflict must be genuine. You can't fake respect. You can't pretend to seek understanding. Your commitment to handling conflict well must come from a real desire to find positive ways forward. Think about your most recent conflict. How did you handle it? More importantly, how did you make the other person feel during the disagreement? Because that's what they'll remember long after the specific issue is resolved. The beautiful thing about mastering this skill is that it transforms not just your relationships, but your entire approach to life. When you know how to handle conflict with grace, you stop fearing disagreement. You start seeing conflicts as opportunities for deeper understanding and stronger connections. I've watched countless relationships heal through the power of graceful conflict handling. I remember working with a family business on the brink of collapse due to personal conflicts. When they learned to approach their disagreements with grace, to listen more than they argued, to understand more than they accused, everything changed. The most powerful moment in any conflict is often not the resolution itself, but the way you handle the journey there. Every conflict is an opportunity to show others who you really are, not just when things are easy, but when they're challenging. Remember this. In a world where conflict often brings out the worst in people, be the one who shows how it can bring out the best. When you handle disagreement with grace, when you maintain dignity while seeking understanding, when you show respect while working through differences, you become more than memorable. You become admirable. Master this skill, and you won't just be remembered. You'll be sought out as someone who can be trusted in difficult situations, someone who can navigate challenging conversations with wisdom and grace. In a world where conflict is inevitable, the ability to handle it gracefully is invaluable. In all my years of studying human nature, I've never found a force more powerful than genuine encouragement. Not flattery, not manipulation, but real, authentic encouragement, the kind that helps people see possibilities in themselves they couldn't see before. Here's what most people don't understand about encouragement. It's not about making people feel good, it's about helping them become better. True encouragement isn't just positive words, it's a catalyst for growth and transformation. I remember working with a teacher who was frustrated with her students' lack of progress. She praised them regularly, but something wasn't clicking. When I observed her classroom, I saw the issue. Her encouragement was generic, automatic, disconnected from real achievement or effort. We transformed her approach entirely. Instead of saying, "Good job" to everything, she learned to notice and name specific efforts, progress, and potential. I see how you tackled that problem from a different angle. That kind of creative thinking will serve you well. The change in her students was remarkable. They didn't just feel better, they performed better. Let me share with you the 3 levels of encouragement I teach in my seminars. First, there's acknowledgement, recognizing effort and achievement. Second, there's insight, helping people understand their own capabilities. Third, there's inspiration, connecting present efforts to future possibilities. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people get it wrong. Encouragement isn't about being a cheerleader. It's about being a mirror that helps others see their own potential more clearly. It's about being a bridge between where people are and where they could be. I worked with an executive who thought encouragement meant never pointing out problems. But that's not encouragement. That's enablement. We worked on developing what I call growth-focused encouragement, the ability to acknowledge challenges while reinforcing capability and potential. Let me ask you this. Who has been your most powerful encourager? Think about that person. I bet they didn't just make you feel good, they helped you become better. That's the kind of impact you can have when you master this art. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. For 1 week, make your encouragement specific and future-focused. Don't just say, "Great work." Say, "The way you handle that challenge shows exactly the kind of problem-solving ability that will make you successful in leadership roles." Watch what happens when you become skilled at encouragement. People don't just appreciate you. They begin to see new possibilities for themselves. They don't just feel better, they become better. Why? Because genuine encouragement is like water and sunlight to the seeds of potential within people. I've seen entire teams transform through the power of skilled encouragement. I remember working with a department that had been labeled underperforming. When their new manager began consistently encouraging their efforts and highlighting their progress, everything changed. Productivity didn't just improve, it soared. But remember this, and it's absolutely essential: encouragement must be earned and honest. People can sense when you're just trying to make them feel good. True encouragement is based on real observation of effort, potential, or achievement. The beautiful thing about mastering this skill is that it creates a positive cycle. When you become known as a source of genuine encouragement, people naturally seek you out. They share their dreams with you. They trust you with their doubts. They value your perspective on their potential. I've watched careers launch and lives change through the power of well-timed, well-expressed encouragement. I remember working with a young professional who was on the verge of giving up on his dreams. One leader's specific, insightful encouragement not only kept him going, but helped him see a path forward he hadn't recognized before. Think about your own life. Think about the moments when someone's encouragement helped you see yourself differently, helped you persist through challenges, helped you reach for bigger goals. That's the gift you can give to others. Remember this. In a world that often focuses on what's wrong, be the one who helps others see what's possible. When you master the art of encouragement, when you become skilled at helping others see and believe in their own potential, you become more than memorable. You become transformational. Master this skill and you won't just be remembered. You'll be cherished as someone who helped others become their best selves. In a world that often tears people down, the ability to genuinely lift others up is one of the most powerful ways to leave a lasting, positive impact. Laughter is the shortest distance between two people. In all my years of teaching human relations, I've never found a faster way to create connection than through shared humor. But here's the key. It must be humor that lifts people up, not tears them down. Here's what most people don't understand about using humor effectively. It's not about being the funniest person in the room. It's not about having the best jokes or the quickest wit. It's about creating moments of shared joy that bring people together rather than push them apart. I remember working with a manager who prided himself on being the office comedian. His jokes got laughs, but I noticed something troubling. People were laughing from nervousness rather than genuine amusement. Why? Because his humor often came at someone's expense. We transformed his approach entirely. Instead of using humor as a weapon, he learned to use it as a bridge. Instead of finding humor in others' mistakes, he began sharing amusing stories about his own learning experiences. The change in his team's dynamic was remarkable. People didn't just laugh more, they trusted more. Let me share with you the 3 levels of connecting through humor that I teach in my seminars. First, there's situational humor, finding the light side in shared experiences. Second, there's self-deprecating humor, sharing your own human moments with warmth. Third, there's uplifting humor, finding ways to make people laugh while making them feel better about themselves. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people get it wrong. Using humor effectively isn't about performing. It's about creating moments of shared humanity. It's about helping people feel more comfortable, more connected, more part of a positive shared experience. I worked with a public speaker who thought she needed to memorize jokes to be engaging. But that's not connection. That's performance. We worked on developing what I call authentic humor, the ability to find and share the naturally amusing moments in everyday experiences. Let me ask you this. Think about the last time you laughed with someone, not at someone. Remember how that felt? That feeling of shared joy, of mutual understanding? That's the kind of connection you can create when you master this principle. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. For 1 week, focus on finding humor in situations, not in people. Look for those universal moments that everyone can relate to. Share your own amusing missteps with warmth. Watch how this shifts the energy in your interactions. The impact of positive humor extends far beyond the moment of laughter. When you make people laugh in ways that make them feel good about themselves and others, you create bonds that last. You become associated with positive feelings, with comfort, with trust. I've seen entire workplace cultures transform through the power of positive humor. I remember working with a high-stress department where tension was constant. When their leader learned to find and share the lighter side of their challenges without minimizing them, everything changed. Stress levels dropped. Collaboration increased. Why? Because shared laughter created shared humanity. But remember this, and it's absolutely vital. Humor must never come at anyone's expense. The moment your humor diminishes someone else, you've crossed the line from connection to division. The best humor brings people together, lifts spirits, and makes everyone feel like they're in on the joke. The beautiful thing about mastering this skill is that it makes every interaction more enjoyable. When you know how to find and share appropriate humor, you become someone people want to be around. You become known as someone who makes others feel good, feel comfortable, feel connected. I've watched countless difficult situations diffuse through the skilled use of humor. I remember working with 2 teams that were locked in constant conflict. When one leader began finding gentle humor in their shared challenges, never mocking either side, the tension began to dissolve. Think about the people in your life who make you laugh while making you feel good about yourself. They're unforgettable, aren't they? That's not an accident. That's the power of positive humor. Remember this. In a world that often uses humor as a weapon, be the one who uses it as a tool for connection. When you make people laugh in ways that lift them up, when you create moments of shared joy that bring people together, you become more than memorable. You become treasured. Master this skill, and you won't just be remembered. You'll be sought out as someone who brings light to every interaction, who helps others see the humor in life's challenges without diminishing anyone's dignity. In a world that often laughs at people's expense, the ability to create positive, connecting humor is truly unforgettable. The key is to keep your humor inclusive, warm, and uplifting. Share stories about your own human moments. Find the funny in situations everyone can relate to. Create laughter that brings people together, that makes them feel good about themselves and others. Because when you master the art of positive humor, you master the art of creating connections that last. The most powerful force in human relations isn't charm, isn't talent, isn't even skill, it's consistency. You don't become unforgettable by showing up once in a spectacular way. You become unforgettable by showing up consistently, especially in the moments that matter most. Here's what most people don't understand about consistency. It's not about being perfect. It's about being reliably present, dependably supportive, consistently engaged in others' lives and challenges. It's about building trust through predictable presence. I remember working with a brilliant consultant who couldn't understand why clients weren't developing long-term relationships with him. His work was exceptional but sporadic. He'd dive deep into projects, then disappear until the next crisis. When we analyzed his pattern, the problem became clear. He was memorable in moments, but forgettable in between. We transformed his approach entirely. Instead of just showing up for the big moments, he learned to maintain steady contact, regular check-ins, brief messages of support, consistent attention to his clients' ongoing challenges. His practice didn't just grow, it transformed into deep, lasting partnerships. Let me share with you the 3 levels of consistency I teach in my seminars. First, there's reliability, being someone others can count on. Second, there's engagement, being consistently present and attentive. Third, there's evolution, showing up consistently while continuously growing and adapting. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people fail. Consistency isn't about rigid routine. It's about reliable presence. It's about being someone others can count on, not just for tasks, but for support, understanding, and connection. I worked with a manager who thought consistency meant treating every situation exactly the same way. But that's not consistency. That's inflexibility. We worked on developing what I call adaptive consistency, being reliably present while responding appropriately to different situations. Let me ask you this. Who are the most consistent people in your life? Think about them. I bet they're also the people you trust most, the ones you turn to in crucial moments. That's not coincidence. That's the power of consistency. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. For 1 month, commit to showing up consistently for 3 important relationships in your life, not just in crisis moments, but in small, regular ways. Send that encouraging message. Make that check-in call. Offer that word of support. Watch how these relationships deepen. The impact of consistency extends far beyond individual interactions. When you become known for your consistent presence, people don't just remember you, they rely on you. They don't just appreciate you, they trust you. Why? Because consistency creates confidence. I've seen entire businesses transform through the power of consistency. I remember working with a company that was struggling with customer loyalty. When they shifted from sporadic, crisis-driven customer contact to consistent, proactive engagement, everything changed. Their customer retention didn't just improve, it soared. But remember this, and it's absolutely essential, consistency must be sustainable. Don't promise what you can't maintain. It's better to be consistently present in small ways than to make grand gestures you can't sustain. The beautiful thing about mastering consistency is that it compounds over time. Each consistent interaction builds on the last, creating a foundation of trust and reliability that becomes unshakable. You become known not just for what you do, but for how dependably you do it. I've watched countless relationships strengthen through the power of consistency. I remember working with a team leader who transformed his department, not through major initiatives, but through consistent daily practices, regular check-ins, reliable feedback, steady support. His team didn't just perform better, they became more confident, more innovative, more engaged. Think about the last time someone showed up for you consistently, not just in big moments, but in small, regular ways. Think about how that made you feel. That's the impact you can have when you master this principle. Remember this, in a world of sporadic connections and periodic engagement, be the one who shows up consistently. When you maintain steady presence, when you become someone others can count on not just in crisis, but in everyday moments, you become more than memorable. You become essential. Master this skill, and you won't just be remembered. You'll be relied upon as someone who can be counted on, someone who maintains connection, someone who shows up not just when it's convenient, but when it matters. In a world of inconsistent engagement, the ability to maintain consistent presence is truly unforgettable. Of all the principles I've taught over the years, this one might be the most profound. Don't try to be liked. Be real. Authenticity isn't just a buzzword. It's the foundation of lasting influence and genuine connection. People don't remember perfect. They remember real. Here's what most people don't understand about authenticity. It's not about sharing everything, and it's not about being unfiltered. It's about being genuinely yourself while being genuinely considerate of others. It's about showing up as who you truly are, not who you think others want you to be. I remember working with an executive who had mastered all the right behaviors. Perfect posture, perfect phrases, perfect professional presence. But something was missing. When I observed her team meetings, I saw the problem. She was performing leadership rather than embodying it. Her team respected her position but couldn't connect with her person. We transformed her approach entirely. Instead of trying to be the perfect leader, she learned to be a real one. She started sharing her own challenges and learnings. She admitted when she didn't have all the answers. She showed her genuine enthusiasm for success and genuine concern for setbacks. The change in her team's engagement was remarkable. Let me share with you the 3 levels of authenticity I teach in my seminars. First, there's self-awareness, truly knowing who you are and what you stand for. Second, there's self-acceptance, being comfortable with your strengths and honest about your growth areas. Third, there's self-expression, sharing your true self in ways that respect and serve others. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people get it wrong. Authenticity isn't about being unchanging. It's about being true to your core values while growing and evolving as a person. It's about being genuinely yourself while becoming your best self. I worked with a sales professional who thought authenticity meant sharing every thought and feeling. But that's not authenticity, that's indulgence. We worked on developing what I call purposeful authenticity, being genuine in ways that create value for others rather than just expressing yourself. Let me ask you this. Who in your life strikes you as deeply authentic? Think about them. I bet they're not perfect, but they're real. They're not flawless, but they're trustworthy. That's the power of true authenticity. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. For 1 week, notice every time you're tempted to put on a professional mask or play a role. Instead of performing, ask yourself, how would my authentic self handle this situation with wisdom and care? Watch how this shifts your interactions. The impact of authenticity extends far beyond personal comfort. When you're genuinely yourself, people don't just interact with you, they trust you. They don't just hear you, they believe you. Why? Because authenticity creates credibility. I've seen entire organizations transform through the power of authentic leadership. I remember working with a company where everyone was trying to fit a certain corporate mold. When their new CEO began showing up authentically, sharing both successes and struggles, being real about challenges while inspiring about possibilities, the entire culture shifted. But remember this, and it's absolutely vital. Authenticity must be coupled with growth. Being authentically yourself doesn't mean refusing to improve. It means being honest about where you are while working genuinely toward where you want to be. The beautiful thing about mastering authenticity is that it frees up enormous energy. When you stop trying to be who you think others want you to be and start being genuinely yourself, you release all the energy that was going into maintaining a facade. I've watched countless relationships deepen through the power of authenticity. I remember working with partners in a business who were always trying to project perfect capability to each other. When they learned to be real about their challenges and genuine about their needs, their partnership didn't just survive, it thrived. Think about the last time you felt completely free to be yourself. Remember how that felt. That sense of ease, of natural flow, of genuine connection. That's what becomes possible when you embrace authentic self-expression. Remember this, in a world full of carefully curated images and strategic personas, Be courageously real. When you show up authentically, when you're genuine about your strengths and honest about your growth areas, you become more than memorable. You become trustworthy. Master this skill, and you won't just be remembered. You'll be sought out as someone who brings reality and truth to every interaction, someone who can be counted on for genuine perspective and authentic engagement. In a world of carefully constructed facades, true authenticity is unforgettable. The key is to be genuinely yourself while being genuinely considerate of others. Share your truth in ways that create value. Be real about your challenges while being committed to growth. Because when you master the art of authentic self-expression, you master the art of creating genuine, lasting connections with others. There's a principle that has guided my work for decades. Every interaction is an opportunity to leave someone better than you found them. Not richer, not more impressed, but genuinely better, more confident, more capable, more aware of their own potential. Here's what most people don't understand about leaving others better. It's not about grand gestures or life-changing advice. It's about the consistent choice to add value in every interaction, no matter how brief. It's about making every encounter count. I remember working with a business leader who was excellent at achieving results but couldn't understand why his success didn't create loyalty. When I observed his interactions, I saw why. He used people to achieve outcomes rather than using outcomes to develop people. Each interaction left them drained rather than enhanced. We transformed his approach entirely. Instead of just focusing on what he needed from each interaction, he learned to ask himself, how can I make this person better through this exchange? The change in his relationships was remarkable. His team didn't just perform better, they grew better. Let me share with you the 3 levels of positive impact I teach in my seminars. First, there's immediate impact, leaving people feeling better in the moment. Second, there's developmental impact, leaving people with new insights or capabilities. Third, there's inspirational impact, leaving people with greater belief in their own potential. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people get it wrong. Leaving others better isn't about trying to fix them or change them. It's about helping them recognize and realize their own potential. It's about being a catalyst for their growth rather than trying to be their savior. I worked with a manager who thought leaving people better meant solving all their problems. But that's not improvement, that's dependency. We worked on developing what I call empowering enhancement, helping others grow stronger rather than making them reliant on your strength. Let me ask you this. Think about someone who consistently leaves you feeling better after every interaction. What do? How do they do it? That's the kind of impact you can have when you master this principle. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. For 1 week, make it your mission to leave every person you interact with slightly better than you found them. Maybe it's through encouragement, through listening, through sharing a useful insight, or through asking a question that helps them see things differently. Watch how this intention transforms your interactions. The impact of this approach extends far beyond the immediate interaction. When you consistently leave others better than you found them, you create a ripple effect of positive change. People don't just remember you, they remember how you made them better. I've seen entire organizations transform through this principle. I remember working with a company where the culture was purely transactional. When their leaders began focusing on developing people through every interaction, everything changed. Engagement soared, innovation flourished. Why? Because people knew every interaction was an opportunity for growth. But remember this, and it's absolutely essential, your impact must be genuine and appropriate to the situation. You can't force growth, and not every interaction needs to be profound. Sometimes leaving someone better means simply showing them respect when others haven't, or offering a moment of genuine attention in a busy day. The beautiful thing about mastering this skill is that it creates a virtuous cycle. When you consistently leave others better than you found them, they naturally seek you out. When they seek you out, you have more opportunities to have positive impact. When you have more impact, your influence grows exponentially. I've watched countless careers transform through this approach. I remember working with a young professional who shifted from asking, "What can I get from this interaction?" to "How can I leave this person better?" Her network didn't just grow, it deepened. Her opportunities didn't just increase, they improved in quality. Think about your interactions over the past week. How many people did you leave better than you found? Them? How many left their interaction with you feeling more capable, more confident, more clear about their path forward? Remember this: in a world where many interactions leave people feeling diminished or depleted, be the one who consistently leaves them feeling enhanced. When you master the art of leaving others better than you found them, when you become someone who reliably adds value to others' lives, you become more than memorable. You become invaluable. Master this skill, and you won't just be remembered, you'll be sought after as someone who makes others better, who adds value to every interaction, who helps others grow and develop through every exchange. In a world of takers, being a consistent enhancer of others is truly unforgettable. In all my years of teaching human relations, I've learned this profound truth. If you want to be truly unforgettable, don't focus on making an impression. Focus on making a difference. Don't build moments. Build a legacy. Here's what most people don't understand about legacy. It's not about being remembered for your achievements. It's about being remembered for your impact on others. It's not about the positions you held or the accolades you received. It's about the lives you touched and the people you helped become better. I remember working with a highly successful executive who had achieved everything he'd set out to accomplish. Impressive title, significant wealth, industry recognition. Yet he felt oddly empty. When we explored why, the answer became clear. He'd built a career, but not a legacy. He'd accumulated achievements, but hadn't created lasting impact. We transformed his approach entirely. Instead of focusing on what he could achieve, he began focusing on what he could leave behind. Instead of asking, "How can I succeed?" he started asking, "How can I help others succeed?" The transformation in his leadership and his satisfaction was profound. Let me share with you the 3 levels of legacy building I teach in my seminars. First, there's immediate impact, the difference you make today. Second, there's developmental impact, the growth you foster in others. Third, there's perpetual impact, the ripple effect your influence has through generations. But here's the crucial part, and this is where most people get it wrong. Building a legacy isn't about grand gestures or momentous occasions. It's about the consistent choice to impact lives positively, to develop people intentionally, to create value that outlasts your presence. I worked with a leader who thought legacy was about being remembered as the best at what she did. But that's not legacy, that's achievement. We worked on developing what I call legacy thinking, focusing not just on what you can accomplish, but on what you can set in motion. Let me ask you this: who has left the most lasting positive impact on your life? Think about that person. I bet their legacy isn't just about what they achieved. It's about how they helped you achieve. That's the kind of impact you can have when you focus on legacy building. Here's a powerful exercise I give to my students. Write your own eulogy, not focusing on what you accomplished, but on how you impacted others. Then live backwards from that vision. Let it guide your daily choices and interactions. Watch how this shifts your approach to everything you do. The impact of legacy thinking extends far beyond your immediate sphere of influence. When you focus on building a legacy rather than just making an impression, you create value that compounds over time. Your influence doesn't just touch individuals, it transforms communities. I've seen entire organizations transform through legacy-focused leadership. I remember working with a company where everyone was focused on quarterly results. When their leadership team shifted to legacy thinking, focusing on developing people and creating lasting positive impact, everything changed. They didn't just achieve better results, they built something that would outlast them. But remember this, and it's absolutely vital, legacy building must be authentic and consistent. You can't fake caring about long-term impact. You can't manufacture genuine concern for others' development. Your commitment to leaving a positive legacy must come from a real desire to make a lasting difference. The beautiful thing about focusing on legacy is that it transforms not just your impact, but your entire approach to life and leadership. When you think in terms of legacy, every interaction becomes an opportunity to create lasting, positive change. Every relationship becomes a chance to foster growth that continues beyond your involvement. I've watched countless careers and lives transform through this shift in focus. I remember working with a mentor who shifted from being achievement-oriented to legacy-oriented. Instead of just driving results, she began developing leaders who would develop other leaders. Her impact didn't just multiply, it perpetuated. Think about the legacy you're building right now, not your achievements, not your accomplishments, but your impact on others. What seeds are you planting? What potential are you nurturing? What positive change are you setting in motion? Remember this, in a world obsessed with momentary success, be someone who builds lasting value. When you focus on legacy rather than achievement, when you prioritize long-term impact over short-term impression, you become more than memorable. You become transformational. Master this approach, and you won't just be remembered, you'll be celebrated as someone who made a lasting difference, who helped others become their best selves, who created positive change that continues long after you're gone. In a world focused on temporary gains, building a legacy of positive impact is truly unforgettable. The power of legacy thinking is that it shifts your focus from the immediate to the eternal, from the personal to the perpetual. It's not about being the best, it's about helping others become better. It's not about making a name for yourself, it's about making a difference that lives beyond your name.